Hey guys, so for this month's video, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to be doing a tier list of all the Daft Punk songs. Well, not all of them. It's going to be the ones from their 4 studio albums and also 6 non-album tracks. If you don't know what a tier list is, here's the basic rundown. I'm not going off a script or anything for this. I'm just going to give my thoughts on each song and then rank them, starting with Daft and Direct. It's a pretty cool album opener, and I like the vocal sample a lot. Don't really have much to say about it. I'm going to put it in B tier. WDPK it's also pretty cool. It pretty much just acts as a transition between the two surrounding tracks. It's a cool little addition, even though it's nothing really special, especially out of context. I'm going to put that in D tier. Revolution 909 is pretty fun. It's not one of my favorite songs on the album, but it's still a very fun listen. And I think the title's pretty cool, like the 909 referencing the drum machine. I'm going to put that in B tier. Daft Punk, the first big Daft Punk track, and easily one of my favorites too. I think the title is kind of misleading though, since it's more of an acid house track, but that doesn't really matter. I'm going to put this one in S tier. Phoenix kind of takes a while to get going, but once it does, it's a really fun track. I especially like the bass line, and I don't really have much to say about it, but it's a fun track. I'm going to put that in B tier. Fresh is one of the more unique tracks on the album. It starts out with the wave sound effects and then the electric guitar. It's easily the most chill track on the album, which is a very welcome addition considering how some of the other tracks on here are like really hard hitters. I'm gonna put that in B tier. Around the World. This is a ridiculously fun track. Some may say that the vocal sample is annoying. I've never been annoyed by it, but if other people were, then that's understandable, of course. Needless to say, great bass line, probably one of their best. Not much else to say. It's been a long-time favorite, and I always have a lot of fun listening to it, so it's going to go in S tier. Rollin' and Scratchin' was a song I did not like when I first heard the album. I found the screechy sounds to be kind of overbearing. Over time, though, it grew on me a lot. It has a lot of energy to it, and I think it's a blast to listen to. This may or may not be a hot take, but this is going to go in A tier. Teachers is pretty neat. Not one of my favorite songs in the album, but I think it's cool that they made a song that's dedicated to the people that inspired them, because lyrically the song is basically just a list of shout-outs. It's also neat to look back on because a few of the people they mentioned they would go on to collaborate with. I'm going to put it in C tier. High Fidelity has some of their best use of samples in my opinion. What they did is take segments from Billy Joel's Just the Way You Are and rearrange them. It works surprisingly well. I'm going to put that one in B tier. Rock and Roll. I've said this before, but this is the only Daft Punk song I don't like at all. Well, I mean, I like the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds of it, but that's because it's just the plain drum machine pattern. Once the rolly, screechy, whatever the fuck sound comes in, the song really starts to lose my interest. It's also too long, I think, and doesn't really progress all that much. I just view the song as the poor man's version of Rollin' and Scratchin'. Yeah, that's gonna go in F.
Motherfucker.
Oh Yeah is okay. It's pretty unremarkable. I don't dislike it. I think it's an alright little interlude track. I'm gonna put that in D tier. Burnin' is pretty cool. Has another one of their really good bass lines. I imagine for some people the electronic zipper sounding synth can be a bit much. I think the little additions like the fire truck sample are pretty cool. I don't know where to put this one actually. I'm going to put it in C. Indu Silver Club. This one has a cool sample, the Hot Shot sample. The main synth line sounds kind of goofy, but I don't dislike it either. My biggest complaint with the song actually has to do with the mixing. Because listening to it with headphones, there's a part where for half the song, the audio on the left channel lowers for some reason. I don't really know what's up with that. I'm going to put this one in C. It's a fun track, but not one of the better ones from Homework. Alive is pretty cool. One of the album's more hard-hitting tracks. It makes a pretty good conclusion to the album. I think I'm gonna go A for this one, actually. Funkad is pointless. If you don't know, it's just a reverse snippet of Da Funk. It's fine, I guess. I just don't really know why they even bothered including it on the album. I'm gonna put F tier for that. Alright, now we have the tracks from Discovery. My favorite Daft Punk album, and my favorite album, period. Now these first 4 tracks here, They're all going in S tier. I adore these 4 tracks. They make for a great album opener. I would say these 4 tracks would actually make a good introduction to someone who, haven't heard anything from Daft Punk before. It also helps that on the original version of the album, they all mix into each other. I think on digital services, though, they separated them for whatever reason. But still, these are 4 of my favorite tracks from them, easily. Crescent Dolls is pretty cool. It's one of those tracks of theirs that relies pretty heavily on the sample. But I still really like the atmosphere, and it's a fun track to listen to. I think I'm going to put that in B tier. Night Vision is pretty cool. It's one of their more chill tracks. There's not much to it, just the electric piano and the subtle drum machine pattern. It's not one of their more interesting tracks, but it's pleasant. I'm going to put it in B tier. Superheroes is underrated. I don't see many people talk about it, and when they do talk about it, it's just trying to guess what the sample is saying. And to those who don't know, the vocal sample says, "Something's in the air." This is one of the first tracks of theirs that I fell in love with, immediately. It has a very triumphant feel to it. I especially like the last quarter of it. But yeah, it's got a lot of energy to it, and I think it's the track of theirs that has the fastest BPM. But yeah, this is a definite highlight for me. I actually think I'm going to put this in S. High Life is another one of their tracks that has a really impressive usage of samples. I especially like the bass line that they created as a result of the rearranged samples. But yeah, not much else to say. I'm going to put this one in B tier. Something About Us is lovely. And it's one of their slower songs. I love the soft and warm atmosphere of the track. Everything fits together really nice. I especially like Thomas' vocoded vocals and the guitar featured in the second half. This is going in S tier. Voyager's pretty solid. I like the airy synths and the synth harp that comes in the latter half. This one is going in B tier. Veritas Quo is one of their more unique tracks in my opinion. It has a cool, mysterious vibe to it. I think it's kind of like the dark horse of the album, if that makes sense. It's a really solid deep cut. I'm going to put this in A tier, actually. Short Circuit, I'm pretty sure, is the least popular track on the album. It's split into 2 parts. The first part is pretty funky, and the second part is kind of depressing. I like how the outro is just the song getting more and more bit crushed. It's not one of my favorites, but I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to put this one in C. Face to Face is amazing, in my opinion. I would say out of all their tracks, this one has the best usage of samples. I also really like Todd Edwards' vocals, and the vocals themselves are already catchy on their own. So that, combined with the great production, makes this one of their best tracks. I'm going to put this one in S. Too Long is a great way to end the album. If you don't know, the song is exactly 10 minutes long. Like Face to Face, it has really great production and vocals. Rob Anthony was a really talented singer. He also did the vocals on One More Time. And actually, between One More Time and Too Long, I actually like his vocals on Too Long more. But regardless, One More Time was a great opener, and Too Long is a great closer. This is going in S tier. Yeah, can you tell Discovery is my favorite album from them? Alright, next up we have Human After All. I've said this before, but this is definitely my least favorite album from them. I still like it though. The title track is probably the best track on the album. I think it does a good job illustrating the sounds and styles explored on the album. At first I thought the vocals were kind of cheesy, but I don't really think it's all that cheesy anymore, especially compared to another track on this album that we'll get to. I also think it's cool how the ending of the track has the vocal sample gradually ascend in pitch. I'm going to put this one in... I think I'm going to go A. Prime Time of Your Life is pretty unique. This is another one of their 2-parter tracks. The first part starts off pretty minimal, and then the pieces gradually come together. The second half starts off normal, and then after a little while it gradually starts to speed up, and then the song ends by exploding, basically. The thing I like most about this track would actually be the vocals. I think I'm going to put this one in B. Robot Rock is pretty cool. It does rely really heavily on its samples. I've said this before, but if I had heard Release the Beast first, I probably wouldn't like the song as much. That's not the case, though, and even though it's not one of their most creative songs, I still have a lot of fun listening to it. I'm going to put this one in B. Steam Machine is solid. I like the vocal samples, and the drum machine has a cool groove to it. I don't really have much to say about it, but it's a fun one. I'm going to put it in B. Make Love is okay. It's a very pleasant song, but I feel like it just kind of runs in place. There isn't really any progression to it aside from the vocal sample coming in and out. I don't know, I like it, but I feel like it could have been better. I'm going to put this one in C. The Rainwasher is pretty corny, but that's not really a bad thing. It's definitely the most intense track on the album, and it has some really cool sonic details. Not one of my favorites on the album, but I still think it's fun. I'm going to put it in C. On Off is probably their most unremarkable track, period. I think it should have just been attached to the opening of Television Rules the Nation instead. If you don't know, the track itself is basically just 20 seconds of flipping through TV channels. I feel like they made this its own track, just so they can say that the album has 10 tracks instead of 9. Yeah, this is going in F. Television Rules the Nation is another highlight for me. I especially like the guitar work on this one. It's pretty simplistic, but it's a good track. I'm gonna say B tier on that one. Technologic. One of the first Daft Punk tracks I ever heard. I would say this is the second best track on the album. I like the hip-hop-esque beat, and of course the vocals are a lot of fun. Shout out to that creepy robot in the music video, by the way. But yeah, I kind of have a soft spot for this track. I'm gonna put this one in A. Emotion is easily their weakest out of all of their album closers. It's okay. I also think it's kind of lazy how they just reused part of the bass line from Technologic, but just slowed it down. It's not bad, but one of their weaker tracks. This one's gonna go in D. Alright, now we have Random Access Memories. This is such a ridiculously great album. It has some of their best material and it's packed with detail. First track on the album, Give Life Back to Music. A very good opener. It does a great job introducing the disco throwback style of the album. I'm gonna put this one in B. The Game of Love is a track that's actually grown on me a lot recently. I really like the vocoded humming in the latter half of the track, and it's just a very pleasant sounding song. The pillowy synths and electric piano certainly help with that. I'm gonna put this one in A. Giorgio by Moroder. This is a phenomenal track. I think it might be my favorite on the album, though it's hard to pick just one. This song feels like a journey in and of itself. It's the longest track on the album at around 9 minutes long, and it utilizes that length perfectly. S tier, for sure. Within is one of their most emotional songs. It's really cool to hear a piano ballad from them combining their usual vocoded singing. Chili Gonzalez also did a really good job playing the piano on this track. I'm gonna put this one in A. Instant Crush is amazing. This is the track of theirs that I've returned to the most after their split up. It's another one of their more emotional tracks. The guitar solo is also great. S tier, easily. Lose Yourself to Dance is a lot of fun. All the elements here blend together really well. Pharrell's singing, the vocoders, guitars, it just works really well. It's also the most overtly disco track on the album. If someone were to say they found this track annoying, that'd be understandable, but personally, I think it's great. I'm gonna put this one in A. Touch is another great track. Like Giorgio by Moroder, it feels like a journey in and of itself. I would argue this track is kind of the album's centerpiece. Like, if I were to pick one track to sum up the appeal of this album, it'd definitely be this one. I'm gonna put this one in S. Good old Get Lucky, their smash hit. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually like Lose Yourself to Dance more than this track. But like with that track, it's a lot of fun to listen to, and it's pretty iconic. I'm gonna put this one in A. Beyond is solid. I really like the orchestral intro. It's one of the stronger tracks here lyrically. I wouldn't call it a favorite, but it's still very good. I'm gonna put this one in B. Motherboard is pretty cool. It's a nice little chill track. I like the ascending flute riffs. I think the part of the track I like the most is actually the outro with the pillowy synths. And that one part with the dark synth washes is pretty cool too. Again, it's not one of my favorites, but it's still very solid. I'm gonna put this one in B. Fragments of Time is easily my least favorite track on the album. It was cool to hear Daft Punk collaborate with Todd Edwards again, but it's not as good of a track as Face to Face. It's fine, but it's the track on the album I feel the least compelled to come back to. I'm gonna put this one in... I don't know. I think I'll put it in C. Doing It Right stands out as the only purely electronic track on the album. It's kind of like Technologic in that there's only a few elements to it, but it's a lot of fun to listen to. I'm gonna put this one in A. Contact is a pretty appropriate send-off for the duo. It actually started off as an unfinished track between Thomas and fellow producer DJ Falcon. It's also the only track on the album to use samples. I think it's pretty neat. It has some really impressive drumming too. That being said, it's not one of my favorite tracks on the album, and I don't really feel the need to. And I don't really come back to it out of context. This might be kind of a hot take, but I'm gonna put it in C. We also have the bonus track Horizon. I think the acoustic guitar helps it stand out more. The thing I like most about the track is its atmosphere. It's very laid back and relaxing. Horizon is definitely a fitting title for the track. I'm going to put this one in C. Alright, now we have the 6 non-album tracks. These 3 tracks are remixes, and these 3 are some of their earliest work. Mothership Reconnection is definitely my favorite out of all their remixes. Very funky track and also has a great bass line. I'm going to put this one in A. Chord Memory, also very solid. I also like the reference they do to WDPK. When I first heard this track, a few of the vocal samples kind of annoyed me, but I'm cool with them now. This one I'm going to put in... let's go B. Forget About the World is pretty good. It starts off kind of weird with this vocal sample of screaming kids and also the distorted main vocal sample, but that's only for a few seconds, and after that it starts to get really good. Of the 3 remixes, this one's my least favorite, but I still like it. I'm gonna go B. The New Wave was the first track that I ever released, way back in 1994. It's referred to as an early version of their track Alive. It's cool as a curiosity, even though it's not one of their better tracks. I'm gonna put it in C. Assault was the B-side for the New Wave single. It's decent, it's got a cool kind of gritty atmosphere, but again, it's not really essential. I think of the 2 tracks, the New Wave is better. I'm gonna put this one in D. Finally, we have Drive. This track was originally made in 1995. It was supposed to be released alongside Rollin' and Scratchin', but it was shelved in favor of Defunct. It wouldn't see a release until 2011, when it was included on a Soma Records compilation. Like with the Brainwasher, the vocal sample is kind of cheesy, but it's a fun listen, especially if I'm in the mood for one of their more gritty tracks. I want to put this one in C. And that's about it. I'm not going to rank Alive 1997 or 2007 because I feel like it'd be redundant. If you're curious, though, I would rank the Alive 2007 tracks between S and B, and Alive 1997 I'd probably put in C. But anyway, that's it for the Daft Punk tier list. If you guys enjoyed this, I can do this format again for other artists. But yeah, that's all for now, and I'll see you guys next time.